Coming up on Central News, high beef prices, low dairy payouts. Is the Waikato kicking itself? National Buddy Day and diabetes. What are the treatments? Kia ora, welcome to Central News for Wednesday the 12th of November. I'm Hilary Entwistle. Buddy Day is on Friday the 14th of November and aims to raise awareness about child abuse. The day has adults working together to make a difference in the lives of New Zealand children affected by child abuse, which comes in many forms. Anne-Marie spoke with Bevan Bain, General Manager at Child Matters, to find out more about the purpose of Buddy Day.
Buddy Day is a chance for all members of the community, particularly leaders, to show that it's important to them to stand up and we all look after children in our community, to help them be safe, to flourish in environments where they can reach potential, and it's a fun day.
What happens? How can they do that?
A bit of a process, an exciting process. The buddies are created, they're about 1 metre high, a core flute, and they are sent out to the schools. The schools register to take part in creating a buddy. They give it a story, a picture, you'll see here, and in some cases a voice. And through that they have some child-centred messages around what they think it takes for them to learn and be happy and to flourish. And then they're picked up by our friends at Harcourts, our buddy couriers, who corral all these core flute children now, who have names and faces and beings, and they are brought to a central place for our Buddy Day breakfast, our special breakfast for our carers on November the 14th.
And so the carers pick them up at this breakfast and take them with them for the day? Yeah,
and obviously that's an apprehensive moment for many. One, to register, to put themselves out there, and two, to participate. Breakfast, 7 o'clock in the morning, a quick breakfast with some inspirational speakers and some fun, and some hopefully leaders that they'll recognise in their communities, like the mayor, politicians, business leaders, community leaders. That shows that their leaders in the community can stand up and play a role, and so can an individual. And so they get their buddy, they get their messages. Talk about our brochure shortly, that's the ammunition of what to speak about, what we're out here for on Buddy Day, and to go out about, then it's up to them. Child Matters has done our bit. It's up to individuals to get out there with a buddy, which, as you can imagine, is kind of awkward and unusual, but so is child abuse and so is children that aren't flourishing. So this is a fun way to say, hey, I'm doing something about standing up for children in our community.
It's a conversation starter, isn't it? Absolutely.
And one of the challenges we find with this subject is it's difficult. People don't really want to talk about child abuse. Buddy Day is about talking about practical things that you can do in your community to look out for vulnerable children, to speak up if you're worried about a child, to bring some simple things into different parts of your community, into sport, into home life, into business, that can help our children flourish and be at less risk of problems as they grow up.
When we talk about child abuse or neglect, it can seem completely overwhelming and that one person can't make a difference. So what can one person do? How can one person help a child?
Yeah, it's a very familiar place to all of us to think, gosh, what can I do? Personally, from my work with Child Matters, I'm now aware that when we go camping up north as multiple families, who is the person that's going to be responsible for all the kids and all the cousins and maybe not drink alcohol that night? Who is the one person on New Year's Eve who knows what kids are in what tents? Who is the person in our community on their board of trustees that said, okay, we need to share our child protection policy with our community? Those simple things, if we all do that one or two things, it adds up to a community that's safer for children. And in our brochure here, we're really proud of our brochure this year. We actually, for the first time, stepped that out. What can I do at home, at school, at parties, when my child goes to a sleepover, fantastic. She got invited. She has friends. She's getting that social development. But do I know who else is going to be in that home? Very practical things without getting paranoid and putting children, in a bubble where they can't have fun and flourish. This is about really good practice.
It seems like common sense, but that brochure has some really good points to consider. And something that's quite topical is your points regarding on the sports field.
Yes, in New Zealand we're a little bit behind in international best practice on having safe and supportive environments for children in sport. And there's some practical things in here that, as a person myself who loves sport and as a sports coach, how do we screen and vet our volunteers? Who do we know? What do we know about the people that are taking our children away for sports weekends? Doesn't mean everyone's dangerous. It just means also for those adults taking part and volunteering in sport that we know the rules, we know the policies, and we have a safe workplace.
What's one of the biggest challenges when it comes to raising awareness of child abuse?
People's fear of the subject, fear that maybe it's them, it's nothing to do with me. But we know that approximately 1 million people in New Zealand are either have experienced or have suffered a long-term influence of adverse childhood experiences. And that affects us through our health, through our social services providers, and in the workplace.
So sometimes it's easy to think child abuse doesn't happen in my neighbourhood, doesn't happen to people I know, doesn't happen in my backyard. But that's not the case, is it?
We need to understand what vulnerability is. We need to take some responsibility about what are the signs and symptoms of abuse or adverse childhood experience or vulnerable children, and have the courage to speak up if we have a concern. Our gut feeling's usually right. It's not dobbing someone in. It's about thinking something's not right. Am I going to walk away and leave it and see that story in the newspaper a year from now, or I'm actually either going to put my hand up and offer to help if we've got a stressed out parent, or in the supermarket, or are we going to turn a blind eye? And it takes a bit of courage, and it's uncomfortable, but if we return to some of that community behaviour maybe we used to have in New Zealand, I think we can make some change.
And that's where the buddies come in, and that's where Buddy Day comes in, to start those conversations. Take your buddy out to lunch.
That's right. Child Matters as an organisation, which is the deliverer of Buddy Day, works more with the children's workforce who work with children. Buddy Day is about their reach to all New Zealanders across our large cities, that they can all play a role and they can all get engaged. They can have fun. They can go and have lunch with their cobbers and their mates who are too scared to have a buddy that day. And maybe they'll have a buddy next year. But they can share these brochures and share the message and stand up as a leader. It's fun. And hey, if they want to do some fundraising on the way for Child Matters, that'd be great too.
So how does someone become a carer for Buddy Day?
Hey, look, all they need to do is have a look at our website, buddyday.org.nz, buddyday.org.nz. Jump on there. There's an easy way to register to be a carer. That's basically to have a buddy. We had a couple of people last year who thought they were taking a real child out for the day. Just relax, it's a cool fluke buddy. And you can register there, it's free. You come to an hour or so breakfast event and you go about your normal day. And Buddy Days have been out with the Prime Minister, they've been in board meetings, they've been in workplaces, they've been on construction sites. So if anyone says they can't take their buddy out with them for the day, I think they're probably mistaken. Other things you can do, you can order some mini buddies online and have something fun with your family or your classroom or your friends. And get online and like our Facebook and our website. We'd love to have you along for the ride.
To sign up to become a carer or find out more about Buddy Day, go to buddyday.org.nz. Coming up after the break, dairy farm conversion. Welcome back to Central News on TV Central. Beef prices are high and milk payouts are low. I caught up with Stu from Federated Farmers Waikato to find out what this could all mean.
Because there was a point in time there where the returns from sheep and beef were not sufficient for another land use, which is dairy farming. Now the prices have come back up and the dairy prices have gone down. You've got some instances in New Zealand, whereas there would have been more margin if it stayed as a sheep and beef because of the beef prices as they are now. The wool prices have come up a bit as well, and of course there's still a good buoyant market for our New Zealand lamb. We still have a lot of people in the world who want New Zealand lamb because they know it is grown on pasture.
So are there some farmers out there that are kind of regretting going to the milk?
Possibly yes, because when you convert a farm, you've got to buy a chunk of money. Okay, and so you built new infrastructure, new cow shed, feeding pads, subdividing the paddocks, water troughs. There's a huge investment required to convert. And when you plan for a payout that's going for your debt servicing more than what it is now, and then your debt servicing really gets a bit of a problem to service because you're not earning the money that you thought you were going to get. And so you go through a period of borrowing more money to pay off short-term overdraft debt, and so you go nowhere fast compared to if it was left as a sheep and beef farm. But conversely, that could change in a few years' time when we get back up to the $8 and $9 payouts, if that will happen. At the moment, the world is not a rich place at the present time, and so possibly being we are commodity orientated, $7 or $8 will be a sustainable return per kilogram of milk solids.
33% of the dairy herd in New Zealand,
yes.
the national dairy herd,
Yes.
is in the East Waikato.
East Waikato, yes.
Does that mean then that we're possibly looking at a bit of a, not a poor time, but I guess tightening our pockets?
Yes, all our towns in East Waikato, whether it's Tiaraha, Minesville, Matamata, they are rural servicing towns, and they require for the farming families, whether it's sheep and beef, dairy or whatever, to spend $1 in town. We know $1 spent by a farmer goes around 5 times. Now we're getting to a situation where the cash flows are going to be tight on farm because the advances are low. So farming families will tie out and just manage their farm, and discretionary spend will reduce. Therefore, we do not spend many $1 in town, and there'll be many $1 that won't go around 5 times. And so your retailers, whether it's your tractor servicing or your sports shops, because farmers like to go fishing and that type of thing, that's where the hurt will be. It will be in the retailing area of our small towns. And I was just going to say, in our small towns, we have a lot of good volunteer work. So whether it's a scout group or whether it's your kindergarten, and they go to retailers in town, and when the economy is buoyant and farmers are spending, they have got a nice margin in their business, and they want to promote their business by making their name go on a prize. Well, that is now a very hard situation for these volunteer groups to get sponsorship, because the whole money going around is slowed down. That's where the ramifications are. Yes, there will be a few farming families that will be under scrutiny with their banks, but there will not be many going to the wall, as been predicted by your analysts when they get asked about the global dairy trade going down. Yeah.
If you were to have a young farmer in front of you now,
Yes.
Ben, and he said, or she,
Yes.
said,
Yes.
I want to convert to dairy, would you recommend it?
A person starting out in the industry or buying a farm, because we have a problem in that agriculture is not being portrayed as being a good industry to have a career in, and we're 65% of this country's income. So I don't know why that's not logical to do so, and so we're finding it hard to get people with the right attitude to go farming. It is tough, but in today's world, you need young men and young women, and we have a lot of young women now in leadership roles, and they do a very good job. They need to have an avenue of getting somewhere. So there'll always be a opportunity to own your own business in farming. But you've got to have a bit more nous than you did years ago of just slogging it out. You've got to have a bit of a brain as well.
So then would you suggest, if I said to you, I want to get into farming, I want to own my own business,
Yes.
would you suggest dairy or beef and sheep?
Well, if you like shearing and whatever, but certainly dairying is more one person orientated. Sheep and beef, you do need to have a good family partnership, so 2 or 3 people to run a 1,200 acre sheep and beef farm. So there's opportunity there. The world needs food. We've got 7.5 billion people in the world now. By 2050, we've got 9.5. In 1997, we reached a point in the world where we are now producing more food from a lesser area of land to produce it. So there will always be a market for the product we produce. We've got to be in a situation that we can still be a low-cost producer, because we're so far in the South Pacific that we've still got a cost of getting to our products overseas. But we produce a food, the world needs food. If we don't produce enough food, what you see people fight over it. So we've got to produce it. And then if you produce a good food, then you can make a very comfortable living. But it requires a lot of energy and physical input, as well as administrative now that probably farming farmers didn't really need 50 years ago. But in today's world, you're putting a lot of money up to get some return.
And I guess if I lived in the Waikato, I had a farm, I had my beef and sheep farm, and I said, hey, I want to convert to dairy.
Yes.
Would you say it's a good idea now?
It's a good idea if of the sums. You do your work. Is it going to be a return on your investment? Is it going to fit in with your aspirations? Yes, conversions went on because financially it was going to earn more money from a given area than the sheep and beef. That's when the prices in the dairy industry were buoyant. Right now, but then again, of course, everybody has a different career choice. All around our area, we've got people in different career choices. It's up to you whether you want to not get up at 4:30 every morning to milk cows, but do you want to keep on walking around the hills doing your lamb beats and that type of thing? It's up to you. It's a career choice, but any career choice in agriculture is a good choice.
Just ahead, weather for Thursday and the deadly truth of diabetes. Welcome back to Central News. It's Diabetes Awareness Week, so I spoke with 2 local experts to find out about treatment for type 1 and 2. Are there any treatments for any of the types of diabetes?
Good question. Diet and physical activity is a treatment. When people get diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, they often go to the doctor and he'll say, go away for 3 months and try managing your diet better and try to increase the amount of activity you're doing. And people don't look at that as a treatment, but actually it's really, really important. In fact, probably the most important first-line treatment for diabetes. If diet and physical activity don't improve the blood glucose levels, then a doctor may prescribe oral medication. So there's a couple of tablets on the market for that. As time goes by and the tablets are increased and the dosage is increased, somebody may actually end up having insulin. It doesn't mean diabetes is any worse, it just means that that is what is needed to manage the diabetes. Obviously in type 1 diabetes, you don't have the chance to do diet and exercise first or medication first. You have to go straight onto insulin from day one. So type 2, lifestyle, oral medication, potentially insulin. Type 1, straight onto insulin.
You say lifestyle changes as a treatment. What kind of lifestyle changes?
One of the things that people think about with diabetes is that we've got to go on a special diet. The diet for diabetes is actually just a healthy diet that we would encourage everybody in New Zealand to be on. And it's just simple things like looking at the size of your plate and the amount of food that you're eating. World Diabetes Week's coming up, and one of the main theme for World Diabetes Week is healthy eating starts with breakfast. And even just having a healthy breakfast can reduce your risk of getting diabetes and can reduce the risk of weight gain and all the associated symptoms. So for a healthy diet, you might be looking at, your usual 3 veggies, 2 fruits a day, making sure you have small, regular amounts of carb throughout the day, making sure you don't overdo it with the lollies and the chippies and all those kind of things. We often talk about the 90-10 rule. most people try, when they go on a diet, they try 100% of the time to be 100% good, and that never works because we put too much pressure on ourselves to be perfect and to have the perfect diet. So if we say for 90% or 95% of the time, you can be good and have a healthy diet, have a treat once a week, let yourself, you know, you deserve that, you have earned that by being good for the preceding few days and things. So yeah, a healthy diet, you know, good quality protein, meat, fish, chicken, eggs, your small amount of carbs, your potatoes, your bread, your rice, your pasta. One of the things Tiana and I were talking about earlier was the fact that people think diabetes is caused by too many lollies, too many chips, too much fizzy drinks, but actually it's any kind of food that's got starch and carbohydrate, so your bread, your rice, your pasta, your kumara. Those are the kind of things that actually change into glucose in the body, and those are the things that put blood glucose levels up. So when you're talking about a healthy diet in New Zealand, you need to be watching those kind of things as well.
Is diabetes fatal?
Oh yes, Hilary, it can be very fatal. You know, it can have life-threatening complications, heart disease, which leads to heart attacks, strokes, amputations. You know, you can even become blind. So if people aren't managing it well, it's really, it can be really detrimental to their health.
Does being diagnosed with diabetes mean that we have to make those lifestyle changes?
Yeah, it's just like Debbie said earlier, you know, it is about lifestyle changes. I mean, I'm a diabetic myself, so I've had to make lifestyle changes. It's about eating more healthier. It's about having regular physical activity in your life, you know, being aware of what you need to do to make yourself better, I guess, and manage it a lot better. So yes, it is.
The most important thing about diabetes is that you have support, and you can find that through Diabetes Help Tauranga. Visit diabeteshelp.org.nz or phone 07571 3422. Now for the weather for Thursday. Forecast for Thursday now. That is Central News for today. If you'd like to get in contact with us, you can via our Facebook page or email us news@tvcentral.co.nz. Join me again tomorrow night for more stories from the Bay Plenty and the Waikato. Until then, I'm Hilary Entwistle and I hope you have a lovely evening.
This has been an Alpha Media production, a division of Television Media Group.
Supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.